From Fathead Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Hey, Kyle, how are you, man?
Young, hungry, young money as well.
Good, man. How'd that battle with Mike Tyson go down there in New Zealand?
I think I lost, but I'm growing up. I look a little better.
You know, it's just it's funny how it goes, right? I mean, clearly that was such a vicious crash. Whenever I saw it, I was like, oh my God, like that one's legit. That's a real one, and not your first one down there either. That's certainly been an eye opener. But to come back and win it the next night, and then be standing there, and you had no choice but to have your picture taken. It's like, well, I want to win, but man, of all times, right? I mean, it was an amazing comeback.
Thanks. Yeah, I was trying to keep it somewhat hidden throughout the day, just because I didn't really want pictures and then get out to the States, and then I ended up winning and can't really have my sunglasses on at night because then it gets really suspicious. So I'm like, well, might as well just show it off. But yeah, it's the bruising's about gone, and my eyeball will be back normal looking in a couple more weeks. So I can see fine, which is all good. And obviously, winning the next night out or the next, about a week later, showed that nothing's wrong with me. I just look bad.
So this is Kyle Larson, who has graced us here on The Skinny. As we talked about, we had a huge show coming your way, and we also have Robin Miller here in the studio as well with us. Great to have him hang out with us. We want to tell you a little bit for the newcomers that maybe don't know who Kyle Larson is, and there's some out there. I know it's hard to believe, but he's had an incredible run at the NASCAR Cup level, came up through the ranks. Kyle has a silver driller from the 25th shootout. At age 17, and I think this is still true, Rob Klepper, at age 17 and only a sixth start in a midget, Kyle's the youngest to start an A-main at the Chili Bowl.
That's quite possible. I don't know if I can confirm that.
I believe that still to be true.
I know at 2 weeks old he was at a racetrack already. That I know for a fact.
Fourth driver to win 3 Turkey Night Grand Prix, just pulled that off here in 2019, a month or so ago. Second driver in history to win all 3 divisions, USAC Midgets, Sprint, and Silver Crown in one night. An incredible accomplishment there. 2014 Sprint Cup Rookie of the Year. Listen, the accolades go on and on and on, but just to put it in perspective, he's a badass. Eldora 4-Crown Nationals champ, 19 and 21 in New Zealand. So he's done pretty much everything you can do inside of a midget, with the exception of one thing. And you're going to chase that pretty hard this coming Saturday. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, I came up, a half lap short last year and allowed Christopher to get by me. So that one hurt pretty bad, but still young and able to get more chances at it. So hopefully this year, being with my own team now with Paul Silva and Luke Soil on board and iRacing, we can go there and try and be a little bit better and see if we can close out all 55 laps.
Yeah, so your first Chili Bowl, 2008, 13 years. You've made the A-main 8 times. You've been inside of the top 3 there a couple of times. I think 3 top 5s as well. All of those with Keith Kunz. It's not going to be the case here this year. You did mention Lucas Oil flying some new colors as you cut a deal with him. I'm guessing Tom Bogner was heavily involved in that, and Tom's a wonderful guy for Lucas Oil. Worked with him for a number of years. But why the change in your own car, your own chassis? And boy, you have already enjoyed some good success with this combination you have working.
Yeah, it's been something that I've wanted to do for the last, probably 2 or 3 years. Just felt like I was really close to winning the Chili Bowl with Keith, so I didn't really want to make that change. Then feel like I went backwards and feel like I made the wrong decision. But finally I just got to the point where I felt like, the time was right to do it. And, Paul Silva, who I've been racing a sprint car with for a long time now, he's wanted to work on a midget for a while. So it just kind of came together at the right time, I feel like. And yeah, I wanted to be totally different than what Keith's cars are, just because I don't want to get out and do good and have a bullet by Spike with advanced shocks and all that like Keith has, and everybody be like, well, it's the same thing he's always been in, so he should be good. So Yeah, got a King chassis out of New Zealand that Justin Inslee builds, factory cane shocks. So quite a bit different than what Keith has. And yeah, we've been really successful so far. My worst finish out of probably, I don't know how many nights we ran, probably 7 or 8. I think our worst finish is 4th. We've won every single one except for that time I finished 4th. So yeah, it's been good, and hopefully it rolls into to Chili Bowl with the same speed.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, boys, my quick Kyle Larson story. Hi, Larson. It's Robin.
Hey, how are you?
Good, buddy. Okay, so Kuntz tells me about this kid. So I start watching him. He has quick time at Milwaukee. The first time we see him in a sprint car. And then Stewart and I are standing in the infield at Eldora when he sweeps the Silver Crown. And Stewart's like apoplectic. He goes, "I've never seen anything like this." I said, he goes, "If that kid wins this Silver Crown race, I'm gonna write him a check for $10,000 out of my pocket." I said, "Well, if you were smart, you'll put a contract under, because all he wants to do is drive World of Outlaws or stock cars, and you got teams in both of them." And Stewart's like, "Well, I don't have a ride for him." I said, "Well, who cares? Sign him." And then next time I saw Stewart was at the Chili Bowl. He goes, "God, I screwed up. I screwed up." So, and those days at Speed, we get to go to cover Eldora and this Four Crown and things like that. So I'm on Wind Tunnel a lot talking about Kyle that year. So we had a deal at the end of the year, the driver of the year. And it was a teleconference with Dan Gurney, Mario Andretti, Darrell Waltrip, Dale Jarrett, Sterling Moss, for God's sake. I mean, we got everybody in the planet on this call. So everybody nominates their driver. So it's my turn. And I said, I'm nominating Kyle Larson. I've never seen he's the next Parnelli Jones. I've never seen anybody handle sprints and midgets. I said, sight unseen, this kid goes to these tracks and kicks everybody's ass. I said, he's unbelievable. So as I'm talking about Kyle, Darrell Waltrip goes, "Now, Robin, this is a big time deal. I mean, I know he's probably pretty good in them little midgets and stuff like that. But now this is a big time award. Now we can't be throwing guys like that in there." And before I can respond, Mario Andretti said, "Well, Darrell, I want to tell you something. I saw this kid run the other day, and Robin's right. He might be Parnelli's equal someday. He's unbelievable." So Mario Andretti overcoached Darrell Waltrip. So then Kyle starts running trucks. So he gets in a crash one night going for the victory somewhere. So Darrell Waltrip's saying, "Well, you can't treat these like sprint cars and midgets. This kid's got a lot to learn." Fast forward 3 years later, Darrell Waltrip says, "You know something?" He goes, I'm the biggest Kyle Larson fan on the planet. This kid is everything I love about stock car racers, and he's the guy you better keep your eye on." So I sent Waltrip an email. I said, "You hypocrite. I said, you don't know anything about racing. You're a stock car guy."
You needed Stewart to square him up again.
Yes, we did.
Hey, Kyle, I know, I think it was, the last week or so, you put a deal. I mean, coming back to the States from New Zealand, getting ready for Chili Bowl, of course, and then it looks like you're going to be headed back over to Australia to run a wing sprint car now. So you're getting pretty busy here before your real job starts.
Yeah, it works out this year. Normally we have NASCAR Media Day and stuff in Charlotte a few days after the Chili Bowl, but this year we have a week off and then the Media Day. So I'm going to take advantage of that and go down to Australia, go run the Classic week there. I haven't done that since 2012. So excited to go down there and race for Sean and Felicity Dyson. It's who Carson Macedo races for down there. And Carson races my sprint cars here with the World of Outlaws. And Sean helps out a good amount there. So it's going to be fun to go down there and race for them. They've had some success for the last few years. Sean's actually won that race, won the Classic with Tim Kading, I think, a few years back. And that's their Knoxville Nationals. So the crowd's big, the atmosphere is awesome, and excited to go do it. I didn't fare too well the first time I went down, so hopefully this year's a little different.
So let me be the one to divulge into the small print of your contract, because if you're going to give that up, certainly the show called The Skinny is where you want to tell everybody about the small print in your contract with Ganassi. So I thought I'd ask, because I heard a rumor say that there is some small print, or maybe it's large print, inside of the contract that says you're not allowed to run anything non-wing. Wing sprint car, okay. Non-wing midget or sprint car, not good. Can you confirm or deny?
I'll deny that. Obviously, because I race midgets almost as much as I race wing sprint cars. So, and then I just don't. I guess I enjoy racing non-wing sprint cars, or I enjoyed it, but they just, I don't know. The crashes hurt a lot worse. The payout. I ran in Indiana a lot in 2011 and 12, and you're out there risking your body for $1,400 every week, and I guess I just grew tired of that and felt much safer in a wing sprint car. And two, I mean, everybody's got their opinion on what's more exciting, but for me, I feel like the competition's a lot harder in wing sprint cars compared to non-wing sprint cars. And I want to be out there racing with what I feel like is the best open wheel drivers. So that's why I enjoy racing with the Outlaws and the All Stars, and keeping a wing over my head too is a little safer. So I enjoy racing the midgets though a lot. Just non-wing sprint cars, I've wrecked enough in them. I know how bad it hurts.
Well, I guess the reference is Chip clearly is okay with what you're doing here. I mean, you're a big ticket item for his race team, and like you just admitted, you're risking a lot there, and certainly Chip, I'm thinking is keeping a good eye on you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do. I think I ran 46 dirt races in 2019. So that's a pretty good schedule there. And hopefully can do a handful more this year. They've been they've been really good with the races I want to run. Even last year, I was able to run a handful of weekends on the same weekend as a cup race, like the night before we'd be on track in a cup car, which is typically not allowed. So like I got to run, I would have been able to run all of Volusia last year, but we had engine problems. Got to run 2 nights at Charlotte before the 600. I ran a USAC midget in the sprint car at Joliet the day before Chicagoland. So they were really good last year, and really not many restrictions. I mean, for me to be able to run 46 races and still do 38 cup weekends, that's about all I can get anyways. So stayed busy for sure.
We got to see you a lot on the USAC trail. You mentioned Joliet, a race that you won, which ended up being a really late night there, Route 66, Kyle. But you mentioned running so well at the end of the year against the USAC guys, of course, winning your third Turkey Night, as Stout mentioned earlier. But talk about the competition of that series now, especially we've seen like really the last year or two a resurgence in the midgets. A lot more teams, a lot more big money teams, a lot more money being fed into midget racing right now. Looking at Keith's team, obviously, and Clausen Marshall and Petrie Motorsports and teams like that. You had a lot of great battles this year with those guys. You and Zeb Wise there in P8 put on I think it was on your birthday, put on one heck of a show there. But talk about the competition right now that we see in midget racing.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch the development of the midget series over the last few years. I feel like it kind of went downhill as far as competition and money in the sport there for a few years, but yeah, now it's really tough. You got a lot of good owners, a lot of good young drivers. I told Keith it's much harder to win now than it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I enjoy getting to go run the midget stuff because it is really tough, and the racing's always really good too. I mean, you could go any track throughout the country and it's always good, hard side-by-side racing. So I think that just shows how healthy the series is right now.
Yeah, a lot of those young guys jumping teams, as Kyle's talking about, leaving Keith or leaving Clausen Marshall, going to their own deal. So it's going to be an interesting 2020 for sure. And coming into Chili Bowl with, 355, I think, the car count at this point. How do you approach a race like the Chili Bowl? Is it a different approach, or is it the same kind of approach for a driver? Meaning like, okay, I have my prelim night. I'm going to do the best I can on my prelim night. Then we'll focus on Saturday night. Or do we put extra pressure on ourselves, knowing that, okay, we need to get some points. We need to have a good prelim night. We need to set ourselves up for Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you want to set yourself up for Saturday for sure, but at the same time, there's so many prelim nights that it kind of thins it out a little bit. Where you're not competing against every good guy, in one night. So that makes your prelim night where you still want to pass everybody and do the best job you can, but I think you can be a little more cautious about how you do it and kind of pick and choose your riskiness that you might have trying to get a position. So yeah, it's if you can just get through the heat race and not have any issues, you can typically have a decent night and set yourself up for a good spot come Saturday, whether that's locking yourself in or running inside the top whatever it is 6 or so to make the B main. So yeah, just this year just try and be safe and not make any mistakes, and try and finish in the top 2, but if not, finish as high up as you can, because every position matters for Saturday.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on they changed the format for the pole shuffle, so it's actually going to be a little mini race if you're fortunate enough, obviously, to transfer to the A main out of your prelim night. What are your thoughts about having a race? And I don't know for sure, but it looks like they're going to do the pole shuffle just before the A main, probably before track prep for the A main, so there's a little bit of time there, but to go out there and actually race with 3 other guys, put everything on the line, knowing that you've got the big race coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't, I saw the format change. I haven't seen yet when it is during the program, because I feel like normally they had their pole shuffle no, I guess they used to have it on Saturday at some point, Saturday afternoon. But yeah, I think it's what now, 4 cars, and you have to finish top 2 to transfer into the next kind of seeding, which helps. Because on the pole shuffles, I'm not a huge fan of them, because I think rarely do you get a good race from it. Usually whoever gets the jump off the line can win it pretty easily. So I think with having 4 cars, it's much easier for that 3rd or 4th guy to get to second than it is for any of them to get to the lead. So I think that'll be more exciting for the fans, and more opportunity for the drivers as well.
They also changed that format. I don't want to say they changed the format. Rob and I were talking about this the other day, but they changed the rules for who's allowed to enter the Race of Champions. I know you've had some good success there as well, and it's a bonus race for you on a Tuesday night. I think you typically race. I think your prelim night is on a Tuesday night. So then you have another race. Would you run that with the same car? Would you try something completely different? Impossible to say this early on. What's your thoughts about running that Race of Champions?
Yeah, I've done it. Different ways. Most of the time when I'm with Keith, we just have the one car. So I always race Tuesday. So whatever car I'm racing in the Race Champions is what I run all week. But there's been other years where I've had a backup card that's specifically just for the Race of Champions. I don't know how it worked out that way certain years, but obviously that's a little more relaxing knowing that you can run that race and not worry about crashing. But this year I only have one car, so I'll be running the same car all day Tuesday as well as in the Race Champions.
Looking forward to that race, coming off all the wins that you had in 2019, and then winning over down in New Zealand. You have to be pretty happy with where your car's at, where you're at. Obviously, like I said, closing out 2019, winning all those races against the USAC guys. And I was there for all of them except Turkey Night, and, watching from the stands and calling that race, whether it was Hangtown or even back at Joliet. I mean, it just seems like for you to be able to jump in that car and be switched on, if you will, with a good setup to race against these guys, it's really got to, build that confidence going into Chili Bowl week.
Yeah, for sure. I was really nervous leading into the Hangtown weekend just because I didn't know how I would be. We ran Placerville a couple times before that, just local, Western State stuff, and was able to win. But there's only a handful of cars, and just Golovik's really the only one with really nice equipment out there. So I didn't know how good we were. So I was pretty nervous leading into that, but we were able to win and pretty much dominate the 100-lap race, and then go to Bakersfield and be really fast as well, which kind of confirmed to me that we are, really good. So, then that led into Turkey Night, winning that, and then, Gateway as well. So, Yeah, I'm really confident with how our car's working and the changes that Paul Silva's made throughout the nights. So to be his first time in a long time back to Chili Bowl. So I'm sure we'll have to learn some things on Monday and then Tuesday as well. But hopefully we've got a good package where we can be fast right out of the box and just tweak on things.
Give us one. Pick any story you want. Podcast. People want to hear behind the scenes stories. They want to hear something humorous, which is why we had Miller on here. He's just loaded with them things. So pick one. Doesn't matter. New Zealand could be any race. Could be a cup race. Could be a midget race. Whatever it is. Grab one. There's got to be something. Driving the trailer down the road, the trailer past you guys, or whatever the case may be. But grab one of those golden nugget stories and give it to us.
Well, I had a lot of fun in 2012 with Davy Jones and Rico and Chuck Gurney Jr. Racing their non-wing sprint car. And I mean, there was so many stories from that year, but I guess one, you mentioned the trailer stuff. We were supposed to run Kokomo, I think, on a Sunday. And, it was looking like it was going to rain out. We waited till the last minute for them to cancel it. So, I don't know what time this was, but I remember my dad had called up and was like, "Hey, there's a race in Florence, Illinois or something. I don't even know where it was really." So we're like, "All right, we'll go try and hit that." And hop in the truck. Me, Davy's driving. I'm in the back. Chuck Gurney Jr.'s in the passenger seat, and we're hauling ass down the interstate. I mean, we're probably going over 100, most of the way.
Attaboy.
Excited to go racing, thinking that we're going to, a lot of people are going to drive there, after Kokomo rained out. Davy Jones, he's like a chain smoker too. So I remember stealing his cigarettes at one point during the drive, and he was about to have a panic attack. But anyways, I think, we about crashed. We got to like a construction zone or something, and it like narrowed down to one lane really quick, and Davy, was going way too fast, so about crashed. But anyways, we get to the track and pull up to the pit gate and go get our pit pass. We're like, "Oh, how many guys are here?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, there's just one other car here." So we drove all that way and all that, and it ended up being me, a local guy, and then CJ Leary showed up and Casey Schumann. So there was 4 of us racing for, I can't even remember how much it paid to win. But I remember we had a meeting and Schumann was like, "Oh, why don't we just all split the money and each get, whatever it was, $400 or $500 a piece." I'm like, "No, I was back then, Dave Abreu, he gave me 100% of the winnings too. So I was like, "No, I'm racing for the whole thing," and ended up winning. So, yeah, that was a fun day. One that we probably shouldn't have done, but we did it, and it made for a good story. It got me. I wasn't going to count it as a win because it was only 4 cars, but that year I ended up winning 29 races, so I used it to get to 30.
That's 30. It counts, man.
Hey,
it was a race.
In the books, it's a win's a win, right? Yeah. Hey, we were talking with Robin Miller earlier before we came on board, and we were talking about when you showed up to Eldora and won all 3 USAC races at the 4 Crown. Kind of take me through that night. Obviously, you'd never been to that racetrack. I was told that you had played the Outlaw game on the PlayStation, maybe to get ready for that weekend. But take me through that night, because that has got to be one of the most historic things you have done to this point in your career.
Yeah, that's definitely done the most for my career that night for sure. Yeah, I'd been to Eldora one other time to watch. I think we watched non-wing sprint cars one night and then the Outlaws the next night. And then that weekend the Outlaws were there the night before. And so, yeah, I had no expectations other than, I felt like I would have a good chance of winning the midget race just because I was familiar with that car. Then the Silver Crown car, I ran it a handful of times and just didn't know what to expect. But, we won the midget race kind of like I had thought we could. I knew Clausen would be the one to beat. And then the sprint car race, I really had no business winning it. there just was like some debris out there or something, and it was flattening everybody's tire. And I found myself inside the top 5 with a handful of laps to go, and found some things that worked for me, and got to lead. I think coming to the white flag, I got by Dave Darland, and after that, I felt really good about winning the Silver Crown race. We qualified on the pole, and I remember just standing in victory lane, being like, "Oh, it's over. Like I've got this." That's been the most confident I've ever been in myself. And it's that 50 lap Silver Crown race was 50 of the most perfect laps I've ever put in a race car. And yeah, we were able to sweep it. So that was something special. I know Jack Hewitt accomplished it as well, which was neat. But mine being my first ever time to Eldora, first ever laps on the track, I thought was pretty special. Yeah, I wish I'd have an opportunity to run a modified or something like he did that night, and really try and match what he did, because that was spectacular. Going back and watching those videos was awesome. So and then yeah, getting the $10,000 bonus from Tony was great too. I'm 2011, so I'm 18 or 19 years old then, and broke, just trying to make a living racing race cars. And so $10,000 went a long way for me. And then I remember, after that, we were in Columbus, Indiana the next day at a local pizza shop, with Keith, I think was in there, my parents, maybe Pete Willoughby. And, they had Speed Channel up, in the corner of the room, and Wind Tunnel came on, and, like the whole segment was about me winning sweeping the 4 Crown. And, that was probably one of the first times I'd ever made it onto national television. So I thought that was really cool. And then really from that moment forward, my career kind of exploded. That weekend too, I think the Cup guys were at New Hampshire, and I remember them interviewing Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and Casey Kane all about what I had done the night before. So just my name kind of exploded in one night, and then took off from there and signed with Chip Ganassi, I think, a month or 2 months later.
We wish you the best of luck coming up here this next weekend. We really appreciate you taking the time out to spend a little bit of time with us here on the Skinny for sure. And we know you're a really, really busy cat and a lot going on. Certainly don't have to spend time with us peasants here, but we appreciate it for sure. And don't let this be the one that gets away, dude. It's right there. They're dangling the fruit in front of you. Go get it.
Yeah, thanks. We'll see what we can do a week from tomorrow, I guess, now. So thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it, and see you guys in Tulsa.
Kyle Larson, ladies and gentlemen, here on The Skinny. Thanks for watching this episode of The Skinny. Be sure to check out all the latest sun and optical eyewear at fatheads.com. Special thanks to our sponsorship partners at Elliott's Custom Trailers and Carts. This has been a production of Fathead Studios. Please remember to subscribe.